डेल नहीं तो वैसा, तो उधर जा गए तो ठीक है। थैंक यू।
Okay. So when we talk about communication, it is like communicating from one person to another, and humans have a great way of communication. Humans are blessed with so many languages, and we have evolved in communication in a huge way. So communication is the art of transmitting information, ideas, and attitudes from one person to another. The communication is a process of meaningful interaction among human beings. The art and technique of information, the art and technique of information influencing and motivating individuals, institutional and public audience about important health issues are communication. Now, relevance to health education. To mobilize the community, to implement health education programs, and to coordinate with different agencies. So, what is the relevance of health education? It is to mobilize the community to implement health education program and to coordinate with different agencies. The ultimate goal of all communication is to create behavioral changes. Now, coming to principles of when we say behavioral changes, okay, coming to principles of communication, the principles of communications are perception, sensory involvement, face-to-face communication, and feedback. So, whatever you say, how it is perceived by the other person, or whatever other person is saying and how it is perceived by you. The sensory involvement, like how emotions move with the talk, face to face, and feedback means as far as possible it should be face to face, and you should always take feedback in your communication. Okay. Sorry, I did not change slide. Okay. The communication process. So there is specific communication process which is known as which has multiple steps. So it is a complex process in which a source of information gives. There is a source of information which is known as sender. There's a it gives a certain type of information which is known as message, and through various channels means with different mode it can be the message can be communicated just like that. You text message on WhatsApp, you text message on phone, then you can send voice messages, plus you can stand in front of a person and have a conversation about it. Then there can be audiovisual channels. There can be these are there can be music. There can be coded languages. So there are different modes of communication. So that is known as channels are known as media, by which media you are trying to communicate, and to audience that is a receiver end. So that is the end person, and it turns and in turns gets a feedback to know the effect of process. Okay, so you always take a feedback. So this is the chart. This is a pictorial depiction of how the communication moves. There is a sender who sends the message through some channel to the receiver, and when it reaches the receiver, it is aware. Either it is the receiver is informed, aware, it generates interests. There is an evaluation of that process by receiver, and adoption, that is behavioral changes. If he agrees to the message or not. Sender is the organized originator. Sender is the originator of message, and his objective clearly defines to his audience. Message is the key idea that the sender wants to communicate. Message is the key idea that the sender wants to communicate. The channel or media are the way, uh, channels are the way you convey your messages. Right? Now, receiver. Receiver is a person whom the message is intended or aimed. All communication must have an audience which may be controlled and uncontrolled. The more the controlled and homogeneous the audience, the greater are the chances of effective communication. Now, coming to the feedback. Feedback is the main component of communication process, as it permits the sender to analyze the efficacy of the message. It is the reaction of audience to the message, and feedbacks thus provides an opportunity to sender to modify his message. A message means a message must be in lines with objective. So the message should be very specific. It should not be very vague, and it should be want to do with the sender, with the receiver. So a message must be in line with objective. It should be interesting. It should be meaningful, and it should be based on felt needs. Clear and understandable, and it should be specific and accurate. Timely and adequate, culturally and socially appropriate. Right. Now, channels of communication. Now, channels of communication. Channels of communication are the media between the sender and receiver, consisting of three medias, that is interpersonal communication, mass media, or traditional folk media. Interpersonal communication, you guys understand. Mass media is like internet or television, and traditional folk media means folk dancing and role plays and all those things, which is locally available for that particular geographical area. Now, interpersonal communication. Now, face-to-face communication is one. One is face-to-face communication. Second is mass media, TV, radio, printed media, etc. Then traditional or folk media, the folk dance, songs, drama, puppet shows, and naughty. So these used to be the ancient way of communication. Now also it persists in in all the localities. So these are so poetries, talking about poetries, talking about songs, then the puppet shows and all those things used to be a channel by which they used to communicate, write messages to the people. Coming to types of communication, there is one-way communication, there is two-way communication, and there is verbal communication, and there is non-verbal communication. A one-way communication is also known as didactic method. The message, in this method, the message flows in only one direction, that is from the communicator to the audience. For example, giving lectures in classroom. Now, two-way communication is Socratic communication. Both the communicator and the audience take part. For example, FGD, symposium, and panel discussion. Now, verbal communication, this is this is giving the information by talk and not by showing written printed matter. There is non-verbal communication. This type, the message is communicated only by talk, but not only by talk, but body movements, posture, facial expressions. There is formal communication. This refers to the formal communication. This is referred to interchange of information officially. It can be written and oral and convey feelings. Informal communication. This is by gossip circles and off the record communications. Visual communication, it consists of charts, posters, pictures, graphs, tables, and maps, etc. Telecommunication and internet, the process of communicating over distance using electromagnetic instrument, that is TV, radio, internet, telephone, and telegraph, etc. Now, what are the barriers of communication? So, there are certain barriers of communication which can communicate in a different way. Means what the sender is thinking, he is trying to communicate, and what the receiver is thinking, he is trying to communicate, being communicated. Okay. The physiological barriers, psychological barriers, environmental barriers, cultural barriers, language barriers, interpersonal barriers. These are the different types of barriers. We will discuss about this. Okay. Now, difficulties in hearing and expression. Physiological barriers means difficulty in hearing or expression. If the person have some biological anomaly or biological reason like deafness, hearing loss, or while talking the expressions are being different and the words which are being selected may not communicate to the may not communicate in the right way. So that is known as physiological communication. Psychological barriers are emotional disturbances, neurosis, low level intelligence. Psychological barriers means emotional disturbances, neurosis, or low level intelligence. Environmental barriers are noise, overcrowding, and invisibility. So environmental barriers can be you can understand that if there is additional noise going on when somebody is trying to talk to you and there is a loud noise coming out, that can create a barrier and you are not able to communicate or listen to the person. Okay, so that those kind of things. Coming to environmental barriers. Okay, environmental barriers are already talked about. Cultural barriers. Now, illiteracy, customs, beliefs, region, attitude, poverty, cultural difficulties between rural and urban areas, etc., are known as cultural barriers. So, illiteracy, custom beliefs, region, attitude, poverty, these kind of stuff. Okay. Now, language barrier. Coming to language barrier, there is a you guys can understand. There is a if somebody don't understand a specific language, if it's like, for example, if somebody is from North India comes to Telangana, and Telangana, he doesn't understand Telugu, and the person is talking in Telugu, the information is not being conveyed, even if all the modes of channel are intact. Interpersonal barriers. When the message relayed via mass media gets diffused in community is known as interpersonal barriers. Now, for example, if there is a mass media, the loudspeakers, mass media is the information is being thrown in the mass media, and mass people, many people don't even care and don't even bother about what the messages are coming up. Right? So that is known as interpersonal barriers. Now, how to overcome barriers? Taking taking the receiver more seriously. The first thing is you should take your receiver very more seriously. So if you know your receiver and you try to convey it in a proper way, and you know the strengths and weaknesses of your receiver, you will be able to communicate properly, more effectively. Uh, Crystal clean message. So when we say crystal clean message means the message should not be should not have multiple dimensions. It should have one specific information. It should have one specific information which is to be communicated to the receiver. Now it is also known as direct message. Okay. Delivering messages skillfully, then focusing on the receiver. Your focus should be on the receiver, and using multiple channels to communicate instead of relying on one channel. So this is another thing. You may want to educate a group of people into village for specific health specific disease prevention. So if you go and you have interpersonal communication, that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it, sending messages periodically. Then the other way of doing it, calling each and every person regularly. So that is known as interpersonal. That is the way you use multiple channels to communicate instead of relying on one channel. Now, ensuring appropriate feedback. Now, this is very important that you should have some sort of questioning or some sort of channel or way to find out if your message has been communicated in a proper way, what you wanted to communicate or not, and uh, uh, in some other way you want, right? So, for example, knowledge. If somebody knows how to prevent, what are the precautions to be taken to prevent hypertension, but the person is not following it. So your way is you have communicated everything to the person. What is the prevention of? What are the steps to be taken for prevention of hypertension? But if the person is not following it, or he is following it, that can be that if you ensure, that is known as uh, taking up appropriate feedback. Now be aware of your own state of mind, emotions, and attitude. If you are in a wrong state of mind, if you are not in a right frame of mind, you should not communicate positive messages. Just a minute. If you want to communicate positive messages, your emotions should be intact and controlled. If you want to communicate your anger or rejection for somebody, your emotions can be in a rage and all those sort of things. Now coming to health communication, is the concern of everyone for everyone. So now when we talk about health is a concern of everyone for everyone. A health communication has to cater the following needs: information, education, motivation, persuasion, counseling, raising morals, health development, and organization. When we talk about all these things, information should be easily accessible to the people. It should be correct information. It should be correct, and correct information is the basic part of health education. Looking at then education, health education can bring about change in the lifestyle and risk factors of the disease. Motivation, one of the goal of health communication is to motivate people. Motivation includes the stages of interest, evaluation, and decision making. Persuasion, it's a conscious attempt by one individual to change or influence the general beliefs and general beliefs, understanding, values, and behavior of another individual group of individuals in some desired way. Counseling is the process that can help people understand better and deal with their problems and communicate better with those with whom therefore emotionally involved. Now, counseling develops positive attitude. It is an integral part of all healthcare programs. Now, raising morals. Moral is a capacity of a group of people to pull together persistently or consistently. Now, health development. The communication can play a powerful role in health development. Uh, a communication can play a powerful role by helping to uh, helping to diffuse knowledge in respect of goals of development and preparing the people for the roles expected from them. A health organization, the communication is the life and blood of an organization, vertical or horizontal. Health education is still art rather than science. Each community and country should develop techniques that meet its own needs. Okay, so for today, I think we will see if there is a time, then we will continue some more. But if I don't think there is a time, only 5 minutes are left for the this thing. Let's see if I have something, some 5 minutes or 10 minutes of small thing to tell you. Okay, the file is not being opened. Okay, right. So for today's lecture, this much is enough. We will continue this health communication. I will, or somebody else will continue this health communication later with you. So health education is very important in terms of health education is very important, or any health communication is very important in terms of community medicine or politics. If politics also you say, because you have to mobilize the entire community, or you have to mobilize the entire group of people in specific direction which you want them to move in. So it is also known as, it is not exactly known as, but there is something known as political engineering. There is something known as community engineering, uh, public health engineering, or something like that. So that is a way of it's not a true way of health communication, because the person has an objective. If there is a political engineering, the person like me, if I am a sender to the receiver, I will be able to, I will have my own agenda, and I will have my own objective to uh, send that specific message in a certain way. If there is a, if there is something known as so health, in health education specifically, we do not have any objective. The objective is being decided by the community, but our work is to educate them, inform them. Like just like in pandemic situation, uh, health providers, educators, as well as uh, public health persons, as well as government, all came together to inform the entire population that this is what we have been affected, the community is being affected by COVID-19, and these are the precautions you have to take, these are the steps, these are the protocols you have to follow. Now, the following or not following may be strictly implemented by government, but as a health provider, we cannot implement it strongly by law. We can only request people to follow it, and this is how the difference of communication and political engineering is. Okay, for now, for today, this much is enough. Okay, goodbye.